I can assure you that what you will observe is a vast wasteland. Free, uninterrupted communication.
Good afternoon. It is truly an honor for me to be here today. And I'm just delighted to welcome all of you to our all-campus forum on the status of women faculty. As I look around this room today, I know that our most important asset in creating a stronger community is our people, which is why we value our talented and dedicated women faculty members and our valuable staff members as well. I was in Oakland yesterday. I attended a Council of Chancellors meeting, and I was looking around the table. We had 10 chancellors. I was proud to see that 4 chancellors are women. We are tremendously proud of the achievements of our own women faculty members on this campus. Your dedication to our students, your excellence as researchers and scholars, and your important contributions to your fields all makes UCSB such a highly acclaimed university that it is today. UCSB is dedicated to increasing the diversity of faculty, to increase the diversity of staff members, as well as our student and administration. We believe that the diversity is essential to the intellectual life of our campus, and it enriches our academic community as well. Diversity and equality are complementary to each other. All of us share a common goal of improving the status of women faculty throughout the university system. This is our opportunity today to learn and discuss concrete steps we can take as partners to solve the problems, to set goals, and to develop effective strategies for reaching that goals. I would like to take this opportunity to especially thank those whose vision has made this unique conference possible. Maria Herrera-Sobek, our Associate Vice Chancellor for Diversity, Equity, and Academic Policy. You know, it's been a while that our faculty members came to see me, and the staff members said, we would like to have Assistant Vice Chancellor we would like to have a diversity administrators at Assistant Vice Chancellor's level. So after some discussion, we now come up with this idea to have Associate Vice Chancellor for Diversity, Equity, and Academic Policy. And I also like to thank Jean Lucas, our Acting Executive Vice Chancellor. I'd like especially thank Susan Koshy and Susan McLeod, our co-chairs of the UCSB Senior Women Council. Let's give them our applause. We are here to honor a very special keynote speaker, Senator Jackie Speier. I was honored to personally meet Senator Speier last year during the University of California Gender Equity Summit, sponsored by President Richard Atkinson, held at the Waterfront Hotel in Oakland last year. I heard the senator speak. Her profound knowledge, very, very much deeply data-based, first-hand experience, persistence, and a dedication to gender equity issues made a deep impression on me. I especially remember that during that night after the dinner, at almost after 11 o'clock, almost 11:30, well after the dinner, and when almost all of the guests were gone, and Senator Speier was still there, available, and patiently, attentively talking to anyone who cares, who wished to talk to her, outside of that hotel there. And that impresses me very much, and that impression was unforgettable. Senator Speier's distinguished and effective career in public service has been a record number of substantive bills signed into law, as well as personal encounters of triumph and tragedy. Her experiences have firmed her resolve to do as much as she can with whatever time she has, because she realized early on her life that time is a precious gift, not to be wasted, but also to be generously given. She encountered a terrifying brush with death when serving as the legal counsel to Congressman Leo Ryan during a 1978 trip to Jonestown, Guyana. Senator Speier accompanied Congressman Ryan to investigate the detaining of American hostages by the People's Temple cult. As his group prepared to leave, they were ambushed and shot at while on the airstrip. Congressman Ryan was killed, and Senator Speier was struck by 5 bullets and left for death. After surviving this harrowing incident, she won her first election to the San Mateo County Board of Supervisors in 1980. In 1986, she won election to the State Assembly, where she served 5 terms. It speaks to the high regard in which she is held that she was honored during her final election to the Assembly with a rare nomination by both the Republicans and the Democrats. You know, in this day and age, especially in California, we can certainly attest to how amazing this kind of agreement between the two parties is. Undoubtedly, this says a lot about Senator Speier. Senator Speier has long been an advocate of righting the wrongs of gender discrimination. As Professor Susan Koshy just said, in November of 1998, she was elected to the 8th Senate District, which includes half of San Francisco and northern San Mateo County, with 80% of the vote. In 2002, on the votes that an American Association of University Women of California considered to be the most important, Senator Speier voted their preferred position 100% of the time. Also in 2002, the California National Organization for Women chose to endorse Senator Speier. As Dr. Koshy just said, Senator Speier is currently chair of the Senate Select Committee on Government Oversight, which is investigating gender disparity among all the UC faculty members. Senator Speier, you epitomize strength, grace, and honor in your positions representing our state and our country. You have handled extreme situations with the utmost courage, intelligence, dignity, and diplomacy. And your leadership and the dedication to the state of California and to our country has been inspirational to us all. So we are truly honored that you are here with us today, and I know we will all benefit from hearing what the Senator has to say, to share with us. Let's give her our warmest applause.
Thank you, Chancellor. First, let me thank you for your hospitality while I've been here at UC Santa Barbara and for your genuine interest in this issue. I got to tell you, I was a youngster in high school and I didn't have the luxury of visiting college sites like kids do today. And had I had the opportunity to come down and visit this wonderful campus, UC Davis would not have been where I had chosen to go. Let me also thank Professor Susan Koshy for your help in organizing today's forum on gender equity faculty issues, and I must tell you, I could listen to you for hours. You really have such a beautiful cadence and command of the English language. It's nice to know that on October 2nd, 2003, we can fill a room of people who want to hear a discussion unrelated to recall politics. Of course, as an elected official, it's impossible for me not to make some reference to October 7th. Yes, October 7th is the final broadcast of California reality politics for 2003. Gag writers for Jay Leno and David Letterman have been having a field day with the antics going on here in California. And if you didn't know it, there are dedicated websites to the recall. There's one dedicated to Arnold, and then there's another one that's dedicated to just the recall in general. And I thought I couldn't help but share with you one of those jokes because it's close to home. I remember Ariana Huffington having lived in this area, and one of the funniest jokes on that website refers to how Ariana is very disappointed and was complaining about the fact that she has received less attention during this campaign than almost any other time in her life except during her honeymoon. People in other states are tuning in and laughing. I'm here to announce that there are no more original recall jokes. That's right, they've all been told. And if someone tells you otherwise, that person should be recalled. So that's my 2 cents on the political issue of the day, except to say that there is a very important proposition on the ballot that I know you're aware of, and I urge you all to vote no on Proposition 54. You know, October 2nd is also a historic day for the University of California. Former Chancellor of UC San Diego, Robert Dines, today takes office as President of the University of California. But the celebration will be cut short by the gravity of issues facing the new president. He really has much to consider. First and foremost, there's the loss of state funding and the ramifications of raising fees to enable UC campuses to keep pace with a commitment to the growing number of eligible students who want to benefit from a University of California education. He also has to ponder the parting sentiments of departing UC President Richard Atkinson and some of the regents who question if UC can afford to have each of its campuses be everything to everyone. In other words, should there be subject specialization? That's another term for academic downsizing, I would suggest to you. And on this lengthy list of issue challenges is, of course, the esteemed faculty and the conflicts that they face as the driving force behind one of our nation's greatest learning systems. One of the conflicts is gender equity among faculty. In fact, President Atkinson called gender equity, quote, one of the most pressing issues facing the University of California today, unquote. I'm very confident that the new UC president will be sensitive to faculty gender disparity. Not just the percentages themselves, but the reasons behind the percentages. Now, I've just had a brief opportunity to meet with President Dines some months ago. It is my intention to ask for a meeting with him before the end of this year to deal more specifically with the ongoing gender inequities among faculty here at the University of California. When I first chaired a legislative hearing 3 years ago on gender disparity among UC faculty, there were 17 brave and slightly nervous UC professors who came together to testify. One of them stated publicly, UC is not Camelot. Let me tell you that this is a hard sentence to say into a microphone. The gist of their collective testimony was that the hiring process put women at a disadvantage while faculty payrolls were living proof that gender disparity existed at all UC campuses. These statements were confirmed by the state auditor in May of 2001. And the UC administration soon concurred that changes needed to be made. You know, change can be measured by a paycheck, a mirror, or a Rolodex of friends. But the subtlety of change at an institution of higher learning is difficult to discern because academia moves at glacial speeds. I'm here today to say that it's time to press down on the accelerator of change that is attempting to move UC towards true gender equity among its faculty staff. I'm reminded of a catchphrase that appeared in a news report 9 years ago about the increasing number of women in the state legislature. Quote, "The click of high heels is the new sound in the halls of government in Sacramento. Well, size 8 lab shoes may not click, but they are being heard. The proof is in the President's Summit last year on gender issues and this forum here today. It's my belief that this is the first forum of its kind anywhere in the UC system, and to that, the President and professors should all be applauded for recognizing the importance of doing this. So, to all of you. But the march has indeed been slow. UC estimates that it will hire 7,000 new faculty members over this first decade of this century. Now is the time to reshape the teaching corps to more equitably reflect the pool of PhD candidates and students who are women. The professor corps will be in place that we select over this 10-year period for the next 30 or 40 years. But this reshaping is not easier said than done. In fact, as I recognize that even for all the scrutiny and attention that has been brought to this issue, which has been plenty, 3 hearings in the state legislature over a 3-year period of time, coupled with an audit by the state auditor, is, under most circumstances, enough to get the ball rolling. And yet, if you look at the data, we see fits and starts as it relates to improvement. In March of last year, I chaired a second hearing on UC faculty gender issues. The hearing's goal was to assess UC's progress in instituting meaningful reforms, from restructuring the committee search process to examining child care conditions. The state auditor, Elaine Howe, stated candidly that while university administrators have done well in putting words on paper, they had not implemented the action plans needed to knock down the barriers to institutional reform that will reduce gender disparity. As has been the case in past years, certain campuses and certain departments have fared better than others in reducing the gender disparity. In November 2002, UC President Richard Atkinson launched the first Gender Equity Summit, as has been mentioned before. Aside from establishing working groups, the summit led to new policies regarding childbearing leave and revamped department funding to assist departments that lose a faculty member who takes leave. Under President Atkinson, UC conducted the first salary comparison study of newly hired female professors versus newly hired male professors. The results were that for fiscal years 1997-98 through 2000-2001, women at the assistant professor level were paid 90.2% of what men earned. Women at the associate level earned 97.3% of what men earned, and at the full professor level, women earned 87.3% of what men earned. Now that is unacceptable. The university is exploring the pay disparity further on a campus-by-campus basis. I was most intrigued by a survey of the climate for women on the faculty at UCSF. According to the faculty at UCSF, women are less optimistic than men about their futures at UCSF. They don't see leadership opportunities or positions as a reality, while men at that campus do. Women more than men are unhappy over the heavy toll on faculty members' lives outside of work. Only a quarter of the women and a third of the men are satisfied with the amount of time they have for themselves and their families. And only a third of the faculty believes UCSF does a good job in allowing for flexible schedules that are needed to meet family needs. And the women are particularly displeased with the level of information and the clarity of the processes related to their careers. The institution is uncommunicative with them, they say. But buried in the back of this survey is a very telling set of responses from 775 faculty members regarding reasons why they would leave UCSF. While the proportion of men and women who said they would leave for more money or to get away from the high cost of living in the Bay Area was about the same, more than twice as many women as men would leave because of burnout or to spend more time with their family. Finally, 14% of the men would leave due to retirement, illness, or death, while only 4% of the women would leave for those reasons. I deduce from that women who can stand the pain are in for the duration. The survey deals with the hypothetical in terms of reasons why faculty might leave UC. I would like to see the reality of why tenured faculty leave the university. In brief, a detailed exit interview will open doors of understanding. Was it burnout, the high cost of living, or a hostile work climate that triggered the final decision to depart? This exit interview is one of the most frequently suggested ideas presented to me by UC faculty, particularly those who work in the field of medicine. Of course, with any interview, there is concern over how candid a departing faculty member will be when asked to explain what drove them from the university. I'm reminded that some 5 years ago, a report from MIT's School of Science found systematic marginalization of women faculty, lower pay, lower resources, including smaller office space, and exclusion from decision-making at the campus. A mini-war on marginalization was declared by leaders of our nation's most prestigious universities, including UC Berkeley Chancellor Robert Burdell. A follow-up report revealed that marginalization exists throughout other MIT campuses and that the administration is engaged in rooting out the problems. Nancy Hopkins, the MIT professor who sparked the first study on how women faculty were treated, had this to say about the 2002 report, quote, "When we began this 6 years ago, I didn't think a single other person, male, would understand what I was talking about. Now MIT has put on the table, examined it, and made institutional changes to fix it." When Dr. Hopkins addressed my committee in 2001, she provided us with a very simple and important account of how the ball of change got rolling. Now, you may recall that part of her study was measuring the square footage of laboratory space. And I'll quote from her testimony. "I thought that success in science was entirely merit-based. You make a big discovery and you would win the Nobel Prize. But I found out that this is not quite the way it is. And what is remarkable is that it took me 20 years to figure it out. I can't quite understand why I was so slow. I had to, as a scientist, be really sure of my data. And I had to compare men and women of absolute equal merit. That was what was critical to me. And I found out gradually that women of equal merit in terms of ability and then even accomplishment were not equally valued to their male colleagues. And that was really demoralizing to me. Only 15 of the 202 tenured faculty at Dr. Hopkins School were women. She talked to each of them and discovered other women professors held her beliefs. The rest is history, albeit a brief one, of how terms such as gender marginalization became part of academic rhetoric. Hopkins' pioneering was carried on 4 years ago by a group of UC women from across the state who met with me to put gender faculty issues on the table. Now, 3 oversight hearings and 1 audit later, the seeds of reform have sprouted surveys on wages and attitudes. We have 3 women serving as UC, well actually 4 now, 4 women serving as UC chancellors. Search team strategies are being rethought. A dialogue has been struck. I hope lip service is over. But I am very disappointed to say that inequities remain. I feel like we're pushing a big boulder up the hill. I'm not satisfied with incremental change, and every time I feel we've moved forward a little bit, it seems like we trip and move backwards again. Professor Carol Goldberg of UCLA told me that attempts to identify salary gender differences at UCLA School of Medicine have met numerous roadblocks. And in fact, the chair of the Health Sciences Committee, a noted woman researcher, resigned in protest over delays. No, all is not well with Camelot. I am pleased, however, that Dr. Goldberg was a participant in the President's Summit on Gender Equity last fall, as were 5 other women professors who had testified in Sacramento. But let me get to the heart of the matter. Since 1998, women have earned between 46% and 49% of all PhDs granted to U.S. citizens and permanent residents. Although the women's percentages of PhDs varied by field, UC had hired faculty across all fields. If faculty hiring were equitable, women's percentages of new hires should approach their availability in the PhD pool. But it does not by a long shot. Preliminary data from UC for 2002-2003 would appear to show that the equity gains of prior years have been erased. Women comprised only 27% of the latter rank faculty hires for 2002-2003, down from 31% for the prior year. Worse yet, the assistant professor hires, the level which provides women the most opportunity for employment, dropped to its lowest percentage in more than 20 years. Only 25% of assistant professor hires were women, compared to 34% the preceding year. The news is not good, although some campuses, such as this one, improving its hiring of women in 2002-2003 did occur. In fact, it would appear that the campuses that have a record of hiring the lowest percentages of women, that is UC Irvine and UC Berkeley, for example, are the campuses that improved the most in the past year. But it is attitude, not percentages, that tells the story. As I close, and before I take questions, I want to quote to you some of the statements made by some of these extraordinary professors who had the guts to come up and testify at the Capitol. Their words resonate as discussions, as a discussion directive. And I will tell you, they came up in part because they were tenured faculty, because they had little to fear. But I will also tell you, these same women faculty members were fearful. They were fearful of things that could happen that would not take their tenure away, but could indeed take the status that they had attained in their various departments. But they have come back year after year to testify, and I am deeply grateful to them. The first was Angelica Stacy, UC professor of chemistry at UC Berkeley. Quote, "There are departments that don't even have what I call an open search. They do put the ad out, they go through all the motions, they will do the deselection report, but the way they really decide who to recruit is by going to their colleagues at Harvard, MIT, and a couple of big schools, and those people have already decided who are the best," unquote. Gender discrimination occurs through the very structuring of academic careers in such a way as to favor traditional male family roles. I'll give you another example from law. Increasingly, it is necessary for serious law faculty candidates to have both a PhD and a law degree. Now, to devote so many years of study and untenured faculty status during one's childbearing years is a very great risk for women. And a recent research study at UC Berkeley reported in the Chronicle of Higher Education demonstrates that while women who have children during their untenured years are 20 to 24% less likely to receive tenure, men who have children during the same period of their career are more likely to achieve tenure. Now, Carol Goldberg, professor at the UCLA School of Law, said, quote, "We do need to be mindful of the fact that when women are fewer than a quarter of the faculty, to mandate that they be present on every single search is a burden to them in ways that male faculty do not have to bear. and that unless there is some compensating release time, either from other service obligations or from teaching, that this is unfairly burdening their opportunities to seek promotions and to achieve leadership roles. Professor Sue Bryant, UC Irvine School of Biological Sciences, quote, "The dean and the chair can do so much, but it's the vote of the faculty that gets people hired. So having some way to work with people, to have them understand that they have incorporated unconscious biases in the decision-making process is one of the goals that we have. And we have a faculty member at UCI who has been very successful in the business world, going out to talk to top executive companies, showing them how the different opinions about women affect the decisions they make and their assumptions about women. In the business world, they care about having gender equity because they realize that that's important to the bottom line. The university doesn't have a bottom line in the same sense," unquote. Martha West, professor at the University of California, Davis School of Law, quote, "Frankly, in the research universities, a lot of women don't apply because they don't think they have a chance at the job. And so, we have a lot of work to do to increase the number of women in the actual applicant pools, even before you start the search committee." Yes, there is a lot of work to be done. In 1998, 23.7% of UC's faculty were women. Today, the percentage is 25%. I would note that UC Santa Barbara has the second largest percentage of women on faculty, 27.2% of all the UC campuses. And in fact, this campus has had the largest percentage growth of women faculty among the UC campuses since 1998. But while 41.9% of new hires of ladder rank faculty in 2002-2003 were women at this campus, the figure is expected to drop to 27% in the current fiscal year. So it's still not Camelot even here at UCSB. But I will tell you that I am quite impressed with the Chancellor's commitment. I believe that his commitment is real and that it will be sustained. So with that, I would welcome any questions that you have. Thank you.
Sarah Fenstermaker. I'm in the Department of Sociology. I very much appreciate your sharing with us your insights and also, in particular, the testimony of some of the women who were brave enough to come forward in the last couple of years. As you were reading those remarks, I was looking around the room at the senior women in this room today, and I think I know every one of them, and I was thinking about their stories, the ones that we're not going to quote today or will be here forever, but it struck me that on campuses, and I'd like your comment about this because you have the wider view, I think. It struck me that on campuses that have administrators or whole administrations that are sympathetic to the concept of equity and the importance of diversity, most of the stumbling blocks come at the departmental level. So as I look around at all of us, what goes through my mind is particular stories of resistance, mild to extreme, of male faculty to the advancement of women. And I think one of the quandaries of administrative leadership is, particularly at the University of California, is how to move that over time in a consistent way. Much of what you've talked about today, we have been debating and discussing here, and in some ways understanding since the late 80s. And I think when you talked about fits and starts, you captured it perfectly. For those of us who've been talking about these issues a long time, that's exactly what happens. That is, you'll take 2 steps forward because there is a commitment administratively, but then you'll take 3 steps back because of a set of dynamics in departments that are very difficult to control, and if you try to control them, there's a lot of cost to that. So I wonder if you could share with us some thoughts about that issue in particular, that is the decentralization of many of these decisions in departmental cultures that vary a lot, and you probably wouldn't want to have be the same. Thank you.
Last year, or earlier this year at the hearing that we held when President Atkinson spoke, I was mystified by the structure at the university, because even when he would say he was going to do certain things or develop some guidelines, each campus is independent and an entity unto itself and fairly autonomous. So it was at that hearing that I decided that I would make visits to each UC campus that had scores that were not consistent with what they should be in terms of the numbers of new hires. So I guess from a personal perspective, I decided that I needed to connect with the individual chancellors, and in doing that, hopefully get the chancellors to connect with the department heads. Now, you're absolutely right. I mean, the department heads still have a lot of power independently. But I will also suggest to you, if you look at UC Santa Cruz, where the chancellor is a woman, and you look at the percentages there, they're remarkably good across the entire school in every department. So on the one hand, you're saying that the department holds a lot of power and the chancellor can't necessarily impose upon them. And I'm suggesting that there may be some truth to that. I don't live in your work environment, but I've got to believe that Chancellor Yang is going to compel his departments to respond to the commitment that he has given to this issue. And actually, maybe Chancellor, you should say a few words about that, since you told me earlier some of the things that you're requiring search committees to do in the departments.
Yes, we have Ray Huerta here. You have the statistics, do you? Do you have it in your head so you can say something? But I'll say something philosophically. You can give some specific data. I think, for instance, in all of the search committee I have formed, I want to make sure that the committee has gender equity. So I did the search, I did the data tabulation, that I found the women faculty members constitute 40% of all of the search committee I've formed, several of them per year, many of them per year. And I think in terms of chairmanship, 50% of committee are chaired by women. So that's one way to start from the top. Then I believe that our executive vice chancellor's office and our dean, we have almost all of our deans are here. Especially in science, I heard that Martin is here. I think you also have certain understanding with the departments, with the department chair on the formation of the search committee for the new faculty members. So the search committee must have some gender equity and diversity in the committee. I guess, Ray, you might have some data there. I don't know.
Well, I think the Senator is properly represented the data, and I think Executive Vice Chancellor Lucas has on our hiring rate. But I think one of the important things is you can put processes in place, and I think Santa Barbara's done a fairly good job over the last 30 years of institutionalizing some practices in terms of the deans ensuring the diversity of pools, ensuring that minorities, women are overlooked in terms of the search process. But one thing I think that the audit did for us, that is your audit, Senator, was that it really awakened the university to realize that what is under written word sometimes is not implemented. And let me give you an example of that. When the auditors were here, we found that on the new deans we hired, the responsibilities of ensuring the reviews of diversity was present. But then we found on the deans that had been here and we had never revised their job cards, because we don't do that until they leave, that was absent. So therefore that was an inconsistency that we're trying to correct now. So for the deans that are here and have been here a long time, obviously that was not included as a responsibility, but it's something that they recognize in practice, but maybe it was not written. So the auditors caught those anomalies. The other thing is that what we recognized when we did our self-audit, and I give Mark Rose a lot of credit for this in the Associate Vice Chancellor Acting Personnel, because he spent a whole weekend getting into the data. He wanted to understand what is it that we're doing, why is it that we're not hiring more women? And we found is that over time, we were hiring more males at senior level appointments in the engineering and science departments. So immediately, that awoke us to say, well, we need a policy change in the direction of hiring more junior level people to try to begin to draw from the pools that are available in the marketplace. So I think that constant self-reexamination is what's important here. And we know that we have a ways to go. There's no question about that. The fact that we're number 2 in the system is good to know. But the point is that we know that in terms of this issue of equity, the processes we're putting in place today were not available yesterday or a year ago. They are today. Whether that's going to ensure equity in the long term, I don't know. But Ellen Burris, that spoke earlier about the curriculum, has a valid point. That is in academic plans from departments. If there is no intellectual diversity in the discourse of the department's mix of courses, and then you may not have as good a chance to change much of issues that are important in terms of the issue of equity and diversity. So I think that was a good point, Ellen. Thank you in terms of what academic planning involves. But I think now we're asking the deans, and that is the deans are asking the chairs about academic planning and how that impacts issues of diversity. Am I correct on that, Martin? And I think the other deans. Yes, I think we started asking that just last year. I don't know if that answers some of the questions here. But, you know, is there any other questions I can answer? I guess.
Let me just make 2 other points. The university, pre-Prop 209, was doing a remarkably good job of hiring more women. And after Prop 209 passed, even though it was refuted in many respects and it is not a restriction in the hiring of women, it became an excuse, I believe, to stop that movement to hire more women. And that's what we're still trying to overcome. And secondly, and this point can't be lost on any of us, this is a problem that can be fixed. So many times we have problems that can't be fixed or are tortured in the way we fix it, like the state budget. But this problem can be fixed because we have an unprecedented number of hirings taking place within the UC system over this decade. So we can fix it, and yet we're a third of the way through the decade, and we haven't taken advantage of this opportunity to fix what is broken. And that's what my commitment is to this issue and why I will continue to pursue it, and while I think it's important that all of us do that. Yes.
Shuzu Ho from the Gewurz Graduate School of Education. I did attend the President's Summit last fall, and I want to thank you for the Senate hearings, because soon after the summit, a few months later, President Atkinson during the summit, we talked about some of the problems not being whether there were particular policies that existed for faculty women, but the implementation of those policies. And as a result of that summit, a few months later, certain changes were made about the implementation that had to do with, for example, centralizing the pool of money that was given for leaves and so forth. So I really appreciate that. I want to get back to Sarah Fenstermaker's remark about, really the issues lie at the department level. And in terms of post and pre-Prop 209, I just want to make a remark. I remember distinctly back in the 80s, we had an acting Vice Chancellor, Gordon Hamas, and I was relating the story to Maria the other day. He went to each department. I was present at one of the faculty meetings, and he came to the department I was employed at that time, and said, you guys aren't doing very well. I look at the availability pool, and I look at the ratio of the faculty, your faculty, and and of course everyone knows the carrot to all of this is FTE. Departments perk up when you talk about FTE. And what he said was, I'm going to be remembering this the next time you all ask for an FTE. And so with your remark, I'm wondering, is it the environment right now that we aren't willing to say, hey, you know, this is a reward system here, and if you aren't doing very well, we're not going to be looking towards giving you the FTE. And then if I could make a second comment that's different from these issues, I chair the Chancellor's Advisory Committee on the Status of Women, and we have graduate student representation there. And a few of the graduate students who conducted a recent survey couldn't make it here. So on their behalf, if I could just present some things. They looked at the statistics in terms of enrollment of female graduate students in various departments. And well, with particular ratio, let me just get to the bottom line. What they found, and I can give the tables to anybody who's interested, but there was approximately $588 difference in pay rates for male and female TAs. And in the GSRs, the situation is even worse. There was approximately $3,270 difference in pay rates for male and females. So I'm looking at, you know, here we are looking at the pipeline, and graduate students in terms of males and females aren't being treated very well either. So thank you.
We need some good news here. Yes.
Carol Pasternak, English Department. I didn't actually come up to give good news. I came up to raise an element of concern that goes back to a point you made early in your talk about advancement. There's hiring, there's advancement to tenure, and then there's advancement to full professor. There was a movement or a UC-wide task force some years ago that took on the issue of advancement in terms of the 3 areas of work that UC professors are supposed to do: service, teaching, and research and publication. And it recommended at the time that there be more attention be given to service and to research and teaching in certain stages in people's careers, that people could decide which elements to focus on. As I'm sure you know, advancement in the University of California is based almost entirely on research and writing, research and publication as a research university. It would be very interesting to study the distribution of people's work throughout those 3 categories according to gender. I suspect that partly because of the invitation and at times desire to serve the university and to be on those many different hiring committees and so forth, so that there's more equity across, more equity between men and women, that women are putting a larger percentage of their time into service at the associate professor level and perhaps into teaching as well, and therefore not advancing at the same rate. It's a complex issue about whether, as I think it was Professor Goldberg you cited as saying that women should be given some compensation in terms of time for that. And we did have an initiative for assisted professors in that regard that it may still be in play. But another possibility is to balance out differently the methods of review for advancement.
It's a very good point, and I think it was reflected in Dr. Goldberg's comments. It was also reflected in Dr. Hopkins' comments at MIT, because when they finally came to grips with the inequity, she was placed in a position, was given a salary and an increase and an assistant to allow her to pursue the equity adjustments at MIT. And she indicated that unless there is a willingness within the administration to attach a salary to that effort, that it will be lost. And in fact, women tend to serve more on all of these various committees, in part because there's fewer of them, and to try and establish the diversity, they get placed in those positions. So it really takes the administration making a commitment to fund these positions or provide extra compensation to women who are called upon to participate on these various service levels. Yes. It's our timing. I don't want to take up. Are we okay? Go ahead.
This will be really quick. Alice Aldrich, biology. I just wanted a clarification on the numbers that you gave about the percentage of salary for the various faculty members, women versus male, did that include engineering faculty? Remember, you get 87% of tenured full professors, or we were making 87% of what male full professors were making. Does that include engineering faculty, and does it include places like Davis with 11-month appointments that are very heavy in the sciences?
Well,
I'm wondering if it's male bias somehow.
It was a salary comparison that was done of all newly hired female professors versus newly hired male professors.
Newly hired ones. Okay, thank you.
Carol Dixon from the Gewurz Graduate School of Education, and I'm going to sound a slightly different note in my response or my comment, but that's sort of characteristic of my entire career, so it shouldn't surprise anybody. A lot of what I've been hearing is a comment about how we need to fix things in departments and how we need to make departments more supportive, and we need to make sure that the faculty, women faculty in particular, are supported by their departments. And I am here to say that I have been completely, totally supported by my department throughout my professional career here at UCSB. My problem has not been in my department. My problem has been the campus structure. And I think that if we go out of this room thinking if we just fix what's wrong in departments, that we are not going to solve a major portion of the problem. It is something, I agree with you completely, it's something we have to fix here. It isn't something that somebody else can fix for us from outside.
Well, thank you, Senator, for doing this. I think that we can't be reminded enough to do this. You're looking for good news, and I was scrounging around for some. First of all, I mean, as dean, I do review the entire roster of applicants in every search, and I have pulled out the files of women and minority candidates and put them on the short list for interview. Of course, beyond that, I do respect the department's choice. So, so there are possibilities for people at a higher level to insist in a way that does not subvert either the department's ability to choose or excellence, to make sure that we give women candidates and minority candidates every opportunity that we can. Second of all, you asked, you know, what did Prop 209 do? I'm not sure exactly what it did. However, it certainly made it more difficult to assign state money to help with this particular enterprise. And so I understand what my colleagues are saying, that we certainly don't want to target money to hire women, because it simply it indicates that women need a special hand, and the women that we may have hired have been given that special hand and were not selected on their merit. But there are other ways to put money in the pot that will help us with issues such as childcare. For example, if we had, as part of our startup package, a special pool of funding that could be used in the first 5 years, let's say, we do have startup funding for most faculty, the first 5 years for childcare that was given on male and female to everyone on the most needful basis. That would, to some extent, automatically solve a lot of women's problems, because in families where the male is the professor and the female has a part-time job, that would be presumably a less deserving case than when you have a female professor asking for the money. So even by not giving a special status to that money, you can make it work in a way that will solve the problem. It's also, in terms of beating the bushes, it is about beating the bushes and tracking individuals from early on in their career while they're still PhD students, and encouraging them to follow an academic career. And that also takes money. It would be nice to have ambassadors that we could send out to the great schools from where we want to hire people and have and identify truly talented women and well, basically lobby them to look at the academy as a career path that perhaps can satisfy all of their aspirations. So a little bit of money that's consecrated to this goal could be helpful, and I think it could be structured in a way that doesn't embarrass or demean women and minorities. Thank you.
Let me just say in closing that in much of the testimony we heard over a course of 3 years, there was much talk about the fact that there is just an equity in which the search is undertaken, where a woman coming in to be considered is not asked or not offered the opportunity for a special employment package for her husband, whereas a male candidate oftentimes is offered that. There also are reputations that become, whether they're mythical or not, become attached to certain campuses in terms of their hostility or lack of hostility for women professors. And we have got to do a better job of dismissing what is in fact myth and dealing with what is not. You know, you think of the Fortune 500 list of the top companies that are family friendly. Most of them are located here in California. We should be on the top of every list of academic university in the nation in terms of how we're perceived in terms of being family friendly. And I would suggest as one last comment, you know, I've been in public office now for a long time, but when I first got started, there were very few women. And oftentimes it was said to me, well, I'm not going to vote for you just because you're a woman. And I found that so very offensive because, and I would also respond oftentimes, when there are as many mediocre women serving in the legislature as there are mediocre men, we will truly have equity. Now, not that I'm suggesting to you that mediocrity is what is in store for us or should be. I do believe that we have to get beyond the sense that somehow you're providing some extra benefit to the women. It's not about that at all. You have an opportunity to hire more women. We have had an abysmal record, and we should do everything in our power to achieve greater success. Thank you.